just walking alongside the track that we normally go along here, and we found, well, this rose. It's not quite a wild rose, I don't think, because it's got lots and lots of tiny little flowers, but I don't think it's been planted here because it's right in the middle of a bush. So I think this might be a self-seeded hybrid of a garden rose and maybe something wild. So, but look at the bees on it. The bees are just loving this, and that's such a nice thing to see. The bees are all over this, gathering nectar to make honey. Look at that. I'm actually seeing more bees this year than I did last year, and I think that's a good thing. That could be good news. So we were going to walk along this path, but it says it's closed because of unstable tree. Well, you're not kidding. Eva, come out of there. That does look like a, well, not just an unstable tree, but a kind of self-destructed tree. But some bits of it are still standing. That's half of it up there. It's an English oak. And if we go around here, yeah, we can see. Yes. Perhaps not such a good idea to walk underneath that. But a bit of a shame because that's cut our walk short today. But never mind. Yeah, it's an oak tree, it's fallen down. It's probably something's damaged it or rotten in the middle there, and the branches have just snapped and splayed. So yeah, unfortunately that bit's probably coming down as well. While we're here though, it's just lovely to see. Look at all that rose blossom over there, wild roses, and just to the right of it, elderflower. There's a lot of very good looking elderflower out at the moment, so we may pick some of that later and make some elderflower cordial. Come on, walk on. Go on then. Run. And this is interesting here because this is really little more than a puddle caused by tractors which have gouged up the earth when they drove through here. But because there's a drainage ditch up the side of that field, this puddle has actually become a small pond and is pretty persistent. And I have seen dragonflies in here and water boatmen and all sorts of other pond life in what is essentially just a puddle. I guess it's a bit of a shame really that the tractors need to drive through here to harvest the crop for that field, because that will limit the amount of pond life that actually does persist in here. But even so, I think that's quite interesting. Just nature finds a foothold in what is essentially just the destruction caused by people. Sometimes if we're lucky, just in this field here, we'll see deer sticking their head up above the long grass. You sometimes just see their ears flicking. I can't see anything like that today, but sometimes we do see that out here. Eva. I'm hoping it's dried out enough to come down here into the water meadow and have a look around. It's early June and this is my first trip down here really, where we're actually going to try and get all the way through, and it's already quite overgrown and things are quite far along, and the path that would normally be quite trodden down is quite overgrown because not many people have been through here this year on account of it being so damp. We've had quite a damp spring, and so everything's really grown up very lush and green, but also it's been a bit too wet underfoot to go through this area here. But we're going to try now and see how far we get. There is a bit of a path, so somebody's been through here, but certainly it's not nearly as open as I would normally expect. Come on. Come on, keep going. Keep going. No, it's still very muddy. Come on, let's keep moving. Keep on going. Stop grazing and just move. Come on. Right, I'm going ahead then if you're going to keep on stopping to graze. Now, I would say probably only a few people have been through this path this year, but it's lots and lots of tallish grasses. They're kind of waist height, these grasses, and it is still, you can hear the ground is still quite wet. So obviously walking through long grass like this, I am going to have to check my legs for ticks afterwards, because deer do come down here, and there could well be deer ticks waiting on the blades of grass to grab onto me. So I have to check myself over for ticks, and probably the dog too. Did you want to go ahead now? Now here we've got a wildflower we saw at Swanwick Lakes last weekend, and this is Ragged Robyn, but we've got a chance to have a closer look at it here. So Ragged Robyn, it's a very beautiful spring campion flower. I really like it. It's not around for long, so we've got to enjoy it while it's here. Now just at the end of the water meadow we've got this tiny little pond, and there are lots and lots of dragonflies and damselflies zipping around, including, I've seen quite a few mated pairs of them. It's a nice little oasis for wildlife, this little pond. Yeah, over the other side of the pond there, let's just have a zoom in and see if we can see them. There are lots and lots of dragonflies zipping around, doing their thing. So this is the patch where the wild garlic was growing, and it's already completely died down. And I did come down here last week to try to gather some of these seed pods, because I had it in mind I was going to try and pickle some of them, but they were already too far along, unfortunately, and the seeds inside them have started to turn hard and black. But never mind, maybe next year. But what I'm going to do, I think, is maybe come down here in another week or two and pick some of these, because once these onion seeds inside of here are fully formed and hard, I think they can be ground up and used as a spice. We'll give that a try. Well, if I remember. If not, it might be next year again, hopefully. Anyway, so that's where the wild onions were, the wild garlic was. As you can see, it kind of looks like devastation now, but that's quite natural. Something else will probably grow up in its place here from this point onwards and flourish here in the summer. Now, there's been quite a bit of interest in my stinging nettle videos and my nettle soup and my nettle pudding just recently. And we are now more or less at the last time when you can pick nettles and still expect them to be fresh, because many of them are starting to flower copiously now, and once they've started flowering, the plants will go tough and fibrous and gritty and not so nice. However, if you've got a patch of nettles in your garden, or if you've got access to a local patch of nettles that nobody minds you cutting down, you can actually cut the nettle plants right down to the ground, just cut them off and move them aside, and the perennial roots of the nettle will throw up a whole new batch of fresh green growth, and that can be picked, and you can do that throughout the summer. And so this plant here growing by the path side is hogweed, not giant hogweed. You can tell this isn't giant hogweed because the leaves are kind of fairly simple. Giant hogweed has much more sharp looking leaves than this. This is regular hogweed, and it's quite tall already, almost as tall as I am. And these shoots here, if you were to pick, I don't know, that's a flower shoot there, but I'm sure it's still edible. The whole plant is edible. Not all of it's necessarily palatable, but you can pick these shoots here and steam them, and they make a very interesting vegetable. Now, in last week's video I introduced you to a plant that I told you was common dock, but actually that was wood dock or slender dock. This here is common dock, much broader leaved plant, although very similar in appearance. And this is the one where supposedly it's a remedy for sting and nettle stings. So this is the field that we walked through a couple of weeks ago, where we looked at all the hawthorn. And it's now the 1st of June, so May has finished, and the hawthorn is just completely gone, abruptly finished at the end of May. It flowers almost like clockwork, hawthorn does, from the very start of May right up until the end of May, and then suddenly stops. And so there's no more hawthorn flowers to be seen, although I guess if we hunted around we'd probably find an exception, a tiny little pocket of microclimate where it was a bit late. But the next thing to significantly flower in the hedgerows are the wild roses. And here we've got a lovely specimen of a wild rose in full flower, and a bee enjoying the flowers right there. Now let's see if I can get my nose up there and have a sniff of these blooms without getting stung by this honeybee. Just ever so slightly sweet, but this rose is growing all the way through this hawthorn tree, and look over there, more flowers, just beautiful in the sunshine. Maybe we'll get out and pick some wild rose petals, because these can be used to make rose water. It's really, really simple. So maybe we'll have a go at that in a video soon. So thanks for joining me on another one of my rather random weekend videos. Hope that was interesting in some way. Thanks for watching, and I hope to see you again soon.